Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Prime Video. So as you can see, I'm not on the set. I'm actually, at the time of recording this, on vacation. I just went to Spooky Empire in Florida. It was amazing. I got a couple of the scores behind me, my Doug Bradley autograph, and it was just an amazing time. But vacation or not, I couldn't let the week go by without giving you guys some horror movies to check out. So with that, let's get to the list. My favorite movies from 2021. And it's really been surprising how little publicity this has gotten and how few these different scenes, like the dance scene and just a lot of these different scenes were done practically. It's really mesmerizing to watch. It takes some great twists and turns with a lot of mystery and intrigue. It really keeps you guessing. But I think this is a fantastic little gem that while it's on Prime right now, I think you should definitely give it a watch. The Breach is a 2022 sci-fi horror movie. Directed by Rodrigo Godino, it stars Alan Hacco, Emily Alatalo, and Natalie Brown. Counting down his last days as chief of police in the small town of Lone Crow, John Hawkins must investigate one last case when a mangled body with uncanny wounds washes ashore.
Something happened to this house since I last saw it. It's not the same.
This is the kind of movie that you really got to keep your expectations low. This is a very small, kind of simple movie, very small budget, not the greatest acting or special effects budget by any means, but I think the story and the way that it's done is actually a lot better than I expected it to be. Because it's definitely not perfect, and the cracks, so to speak, do show from time to time, especially I think in the final act. Some of the special effects and makeup work, it's a little bit cringy, you know, it did take me out just a tiny bit, but I think if you're someone like me that loves Lovecraftian stuff, loves time and dimensional kind of, you know, sci-fi horror movies, this one's a really fun little one. It's just not the kind of movie to pick apart. It's not anything that's gonna wow you, but I do think it's rather well done, especially for what a micro kind of project this is. Because it's Raven Banner, and they don't have the biggest budgets, you know, they're not able to do these wild, well-polished type of indie horror. They're more on that small scope where the story is what does the heavy lifting. And I think that the story is actually a lot of fun in this. So I think if you go into this with the right expectations, you could really have a good time with it.
Just so you know, I don't do blowjobs. You pee out of that thing.
Just think, maybe if she did do blowjobs, she'd still be alive.
Yeah, let's not make that the lesson.
Totally Killer is a 2023 comedy slasher horror movie. Directed by Nahnatchka Khan, it stars Kiernan Shipka, Olivia Holt, and Julie Bowen. When the infamous Sweet 16 killer returns 35 years after his first murder spree to claim another victim, causing 17-year-old Jamie to accidentally travel back in time to 1987, determined to stop the killer before he can start.
I'd like to report a crime that hasn't happened yet. Have you seen the movie Back to the Future? Basically, I'm living that movie right now, which is how I know there's gonna be a murder tonight.
This movie was a blast. I had so much fun with this movie. It's not anything to take serious. It's definitely more comedy than it is scary, but it does have some good gore and some fun chase scenes. You know, it doesn't shy away from the slasher elements as well. But in a lot of ways, it's kind of like Scream meets Back to the Future. And I just love that concept, and I thought it was really well done. Kiernan Shipka especially, I thought was a lot of fun. She just got so much charisma and just really entertaining to watch. I really enjoyed her on the Sabrina remake over on Netflix that ran like 4 seasons. I think that's a great little series, and I thought she was fantastic again in this. But it's just all around a fun, entertaining kind of movie, and I think this is a perfect one to grab a bowl of popcorn with, so absolutely add it to your list.
He can't stop it. He can't slow it down. He can't even figure it out. No! Whatever door you open in my mind, I want you to shut it.
Stir of Echoes is a 1999 supernatural horror movie, written and directed by David Cope. It stars Kevin Bacon, Catherine Urbe, and Alina Douglas. After being hypnotized by his sister-in-law, a man begins seeing haunting visions of a girl's ghost, and a mystery begins to unfold around him.
Why do I know that song?
Are you okay?
What the hell did she do to me?
This is one of my favorite Kevin Bacon movies, especially when you're talking about hidden gem movies, ones that just nobody really ever talks about. This really flies under the radar, and I just think it's got this eerie, chilling, creative element about it. And it's really weird to me how little people have talked about this over the years, because I remember seeing it in theaters when it came out and just loving it then. And when I rewatched it not too long ago, I enjoyed it again because it's full of mood and atmosphere with some really intriguing imagery. But it's just in general a creepy little movie that does a really good job of really giving you that mystery element where it keeps you guessing and trying to figure this out, because you're following Kevin Bacon's character and he never quite knows what's reality and what has happened to him. And so you just follow him as he goes down this journey to try to figure out what's happening to him. But I think it's criminally underrated. And if it's been a while since you've seen it, or if you've never seen this, I think you absolutely should check it out.
Come on, you son of a bitch!
Crawl is a 2019 creature feature horror movie. Directed by Alexandra Aja, it stars Kaya Scodelario and Barry Pepper. The story is about a daughter and her father who find themselves trapped in a crawl space of their home and preyed upon by alligators during a Category 5 hurricane in Florida.
The state of Florida has issued a Category 5 hurricane warning. All residents must evacuate immediately. Grab your families, your loved ones, and get out.
So this is one of my favorite creature features of recent memory, because we just don't see a lot of the real world, you know, the natural disaster creature feature kind of movies, you know, giant bears or whatever. We just don't see a lot of that done anymore. And when it is, it's really kind of cheesy and made for sci-fi. We definitely don't see any that are actually good movies. And I think this one is really well done, because even the CGI in it, I think, holds up pretty well. It's got a solid cast, and it just does a really good job of putting you into this claustrophobic environment where there's this creature that you could actually see really existing in the real world, and it just becomes terrifying. But I also love the way they use water in this. It's as much of a predator in this as the alligator itself, because the water is rising everywhere. You know, the hurricane is just going insane around them. So I just like that twist that the two together, I think, make for a really fun, entertaining movie. It knows what it is, and it doesn't ask you to take it too serious. It really is a creature feature, and it leans into that and has a good time with it. But I think it's one that'll definitely keep you on the edge of your seat, and one you could absolutely have fun with. Evil Dead Rise is a 2023 supernatural horror movie, written and directed by Lee Cronin. It stars Lily Sullivan, Alyssa Sutherland, and Morgan Davies. It's a twisted tale of two estranged sisters, whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish versions of family imaginable.
No matter how busy you ever got, you always found time for me. I can't believe I'm never gonna speak to you again.
So this drops on November 23rd onto Prime. So at the time you're seeing this, it might not quite be out yet, but I wanted to mention it because it's been on HBO, I believe, for a little bit, but this is one that more people will be able to check it out, and a lot of us that have already seen this will get a chance to rewatch it. I think it's a blast. It's one of my favorite movies this year. I haven't figured out exactly the order of my top 10, but without a shadow of a doubt, it'll be in my top 10 this year. I just love how gory it is, how over the top it is. I really enjoy how it has humor but it isn't really campy at the same time. It's kind of like it walks that fine line because there is humor in it, but it seems like a lot of people kind of miss the humor in it. They don't see it being over the top campy, so they don't really see the humor. But I felt like it was definitely leaning into that humor without going too silly and too campy. Just not anything too serious though. Like, it didn't have this really deep story to it. It really was just crazy carnage, candy, goriness. But for people like me that love that type of horror, this one is absolutely a blast.
We're gonna get you, not another peep. Time to go to sleep.
Evil Dead is a 2013 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Fede Alvarez, it's a reimagining of the 1981 film of the same name. It stars Jane Levy, Sheila Fernandez, and Lou Taylor Pucci. The story follows a group of 5 friends under attack by a supernatural entity in a remote cabin in the woods.
You don't understand.
So since I was talking about Evil Dead Rise, I wanted to also mention that Evil Dead 2013 is also going to be available on Prime this month. So definitely, this is a great 1-2 double feature. I think it's a blast. I just did it myself recently, and I just really enjoy how these movies are similar in some ways, but quite a bit different in others, because they're both very brutal, both very gory, and both very Evil Dead. But where 2013 is very, very serious and asks you to put away your sense of humor and the campiness, you know, Evil Dead Rise does lean back more into that campy qualities and doesn't really have much of a serious story. It doesn't really expect you to take it serious very much. But 2013 does, and that's what I really enjoy about this version of Evil Dead, because it virtually does the same story as the original Evil Dead. It just puts it into this modern era and has a little more teeth. It's a little more aggressive. It's a little more dark and uncomfortable, at least in my opinion. Probably more of the way Evil Dead would have felt to an audience back in '81 when it came out. But I was just a little one back then, so I never got to see the original Evil Dead in the way that it was intended. You know, the audiences, the way they saw it in theaters back then. And so for me, 2013 kind of did that for me. It had teeth, it was very aggressive, and there was no humor in it at all. Even if it was mostly because of the campiness of '81, it does have some, you know, humorous elements. But this movie is mean, vicious, and absolutely savage. And to me, this is a must-watch for any fan of horror. Renfield is a 2023 comedy horror movie. With this movie, it was so much fun in theaters, and it's a real shame that it didn't do better in the box office. It really was a big dud and lost a lot of money. And that's frustrating to me. You know, the Frankensteins, the Draculas, the Wolfman, you know, more in that vein of horror. You know, let's get some of that, let's get that universe that was talked about for so long. And I thought this one really did a good job. So made it this modern movie, and it was funny and well told. And Nicolas Cage, I swear, he was born to play this role as Dracula. He was just brilliant in this role. But it's another one of those movies that's not a game changer, and I think it's easy to pick apart if you're, you know, one of those hardcore Dracula fans, and you know, you don't want to see that property made fun of and made light of. It's a lot of fun for a comedy popcorn horror movie, and one that I think if you accept it for what it is, it's a great pick. Meander is a 2020 French sci-fi horror movie. Written and directed by Matthew Turi, it stars Gaia Weiss and Peter Franzen. The story is about a woman who wakes up to find she's trapped in a series of tubes, with dangerous obstacles and traps everywhere, that she must escape to survive. So this is a pretty simple kind of movie. It's one that reminds you in a lot of ways of other trap movies. Definitely movies like Saw and Cube, but it has enough uniqueness to it that I think it separates itself. But beyond that, it just does an extremely good job of making you feel claustrophobic and trapped in this environment. Now, this isn't necessarily what I would say is like a groundbreaking movie. It's not like Cube was when it came out. But I do think the look and style and feel of it give it enough of a unique quality that it's definitely worth watching. Because I found myself completely captivated. It's just heart-pounding and thrilling this entire time, where you're just rooting for this woman as she's trying to just escape, and they just keep throwing these different situations at her. And every time you think you've seen what is going to happen, it throws another twist and another wrinkle. So I think if you're looking for an intense thrill ride, this is a great choice.
No, this isn't real.
What is happening?
Shrooms is a 2007 horror movie, directed by Patty Brethnock and written by Pierce Elliott. It stars Lindsey Hahn, Jack Huston, and Max Kosh. The plot follows a group of American students and their English guide who are stalked by a serial killer while out in the woods looking for psilocybin mushrooms.
So tell us a ghost story.
Strange things happen up here around shroom season. People missing only for their bodies to turn up mutilated.
This is one of those movies to me that is a victim of its name. Like, this might have seemed like a good idea at the time, you know, a trendy thing, like with the teenagers, ooh, shrooms, let's check that out. But all it's done is just date this movie and make it sound gimmicky and cheesy and really not what it is. Because it is a slasher and it does have drug, you know, psilocybin mushroom elements in it. But the way that those two things are blended give it a really unique vibe. And it keeps you guessing throughout the whole movie because you never really know if what you're seeing is reality or if it's these drug-induced hallucinations. And so it really keeps you off kilter. But beyond that, it just has a really cool look about it. There's a lot of visuals and things. And the fact that it's all taking place in the woods, it's just a lot more unique than you'd expect it to be, and a lot better movie than it has any right to be. And honestly, I think this would be a cult classic, I swear, if it wasn't for the name. Because every time you mention this movie to people, they just kind of roll their eyes and go, yeah, okay. But I'm telling you, it's well done, it's well acted, directed, it's shot well. The cast does a decent enough job for a teen type of slasher movie. I mean, it really is a well put together film, and it's especially one of the best from that era, because there was a lot of cookie cutter Scream wannabe movies that were coming out in the early 2000s. And this is definitely not. It has its own flavor and feel. It doesn't feel like a ripoff. But beyond that, I just think it's a really entertaining movie and a perfect pick for your Saturday night. So do yourself a favor this weekend, pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! Alright, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week, I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean absolutely everything to me. And if you would like to help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or if you want to help support the channel over here and become a channel member, there's a button right down there that says join. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch my most recent recommendation list over on Shudder. And I'll see you guys next time.